to my professor in this field of philosophy, Reverend Father Conrado Estafia. Good day to you, Father. As I have read your lecture on the meaning of nature, according to Aristotle, I have learned few things. Now, let me sum up my understanding on Aristotle's nature. I go first on the meaning of nature in general. There are lots of definitions of nature, but we consider definition of nature on the account of William A. Wallace, a remarkable Dominican philosopher. According to him, nature is defined as the principle or cause of motion and of rest, in that in which it is primarily by reason of itself and not accidentally. That is, nature causes its own motion, and that motion will come up into rest, which is the primary goal of that motion, and that nature reasons in itself and not accidentally. Now, let's go to Aristotle's definition on nature. Aristotle have a lot of definitions of nature as he continually developed his ideas on it. His first definition of nature is the ultimate underlying material of all things that have in themselves the principle of movement and change. It is quite similar to Wallace's definition, that is, principle of motion or change. Later, Aristotle revises his definition as nature is the distinctive form or quality of such things as have within themselves a principle of motion, such as form or characteristic, property, not being separable from the things themselves. He defines it more specific, as he mentions not being separable from the things themselves. In proving his theory of hylomorphism, that is, the things are composed of matter and form and is not separable from the things themselves, in contradiction of his teacher's thought, Plato, that matter and form are separated. Aristotle further says that nature is etymological equivalent of Genesis and is actually used as synonym for it. That is, qua genesis proclaims itself as a path to nature, qua goal. This means that everything undergoes motion and turns into something else towards its final goal. Thus, nature acts towards a goal. He points out that nature is moving towards a goal which the rest exist, and this goal is not a termination, but the best. Aristotle observes the changes that happens in everything and examines the hows and whys of these things. Aristotle describes this motion. He said that this is an influx into being, a movement towards a perfection. Like, for example, a carpenter makes a table out of wood, and that wood undergoes change, and that it tends to a goal, which is to become a table, which possesses perfection. He came up to the notion of cause. He points out that the precise manner of causing differs in various exercise of causality. In demonstrating the different types of cause, he applied the general doctrines of act and potency. As act, the cause of being is a form. Thus, it is a formal cause. As potency, it has two causes, namely matter, that is, potential, and agent, that makes its matter from potency to act, that is the material and efficient cause. Then, as the agent acts on matter, it tends to something determinate, which is the final cause. Talking about change, Aristotle mentions different processes of change, namely the local, It is the change of place. Like, for example, a house is transferred from one place to another, like what we Filipinos usually do in during or as we practice bayanihan. It undergoes local change. Second is quantitative. It is a change of magnitude or size. Like, for example, a puppy grows up into a huge Belgian dog. Thus, this dog, as it changes his weight, his magnitude or size, the dog undergoes quantitative change. Third is qualitative, the change of quality. Like, for example, the soft stem of a small tree changes into hard stem of a huge tree. And lastly, the substantial. It is the change in respect of being. Like, for example, water changes into gas in evaporation process. These are the changes that nature undergoes. As I mentioned earlier, Aristotle is famous with his theory of hylomorphism. That is a thought that everything is composed of matter and form. For him, matter and form are essential or per se principles. Matter is itself a potency or capacity in becoming into something new. There are two kinds of matter. The primary matter, which is the subject of the substantial change, and the secondary matter, which is the subject of accidental change. But what are these substantial change and accidental change? Substantial change is when a thing turns into completely different substance, as wood turns into ashes when it was burned. And the accidental change is when a thing changes only its characteristics, like a small tree growing into a big tree. Form. Form is the complement of the actuation of matter, the essence. It makes a thing what it is, like the woodness of a wood. It is what determines a thing to be the way it is, or the principle of determination. But if there is a principle of determination, there is also a principle of indetermination, which is what makes it material being into material. Material being, as we have mentioned, has its matter and form. Thus, everything, including humans, are material beings. Our materiality is the same with the materiality of a table. Thus, it is the principle of indetermination. What differs between us and other things is the form. Aristotle just teaches us about the principles that defines everything we see, that is nature. From the simplest things that we encounter to the deepest part that our mind could perceive. From the physical appearance of an object to its metaphysical attributes. Indeed, we can truly know the inner nature of things. Thank you.